Finish the show talking football. Here's the schedule ahead for USC, coming off a 7-6 campaign a year ago, culminating in a bowl win against Texas A&M. Get Missouri State, Georgia Southern at home before heading on the road to Purdue for the conference opener. Michigan and Iowa among the marquee home opponents. Head to Illinois and Oregon, among others, plus the rivalry game mid-season in South Bend against the Fighting Irish. Time for our big interview. It is the head coach of the Trojans, Lincoln Riley. Coach, you just wrapped up spring practice here over the weekend. What are the biggest things that you feel like you learned about your team?
I think we had a really productive spring. We had a lot of new players, some really interesting position battles that are going on, and it was just kind of fun to watch that evolve throughout the spring. I think we continue to make some strides on the lines of scrimmage. I think that's been a real goal of ours here from day one, and I think throughout the years it's gotten better and better. And I think these two groups on the line of scrimmage certainly have a chance to be the best groups that we've had here at USC from a talent perspective, from a depth perspective. And so that's probably the biggest difference I think that you notice with our football team right now. And also I would say you could certainly feel that it's now year two defensively in this system with Coach Lynn and the defensive staff that we've put together. You could feel kind of the difference. You could feel some guys that were certainly more comfortable in that system, and certainly expect that to continue to grow and see every sign that it will.
Yeah, I want to take a deeper dive into a couple of things you said there. You mentioned both lines of scrimmage, and I had heard some of your media availability during the course of spring practice, and you talked about that quite a bit, that you got more depth and you got more size as well on both the offensive and defensive line. How much of that is just kind of where you were as a program, and how much of that is perhaps a reaction to being in the new conference? Is that a function of that at all?
I think it's probably more to do with where we were as a program, and those are historically like the two toughest position groups to really build up into a strong room when it's not quite that, and there's just not many great ones lying around. You can't just put that together in 1 year or 2 years. I mean, that takes time to build the competitive depth, to build the size, the skill sets, all that you really want. The big people dominate football. They just do. And the lines of scrimmage obviously are where a lot of these games are certainly won, and where these battles really are at. And so those two areas were probably the biggest undertaking from a personnel standpoint in this program a few years ago. Each year it's gotten better and better. And yeah, excited about what that means. And I don't think it's as much a reaction to being in the Big Ten now, but certainly I think being in the Big Ten highlights the importance of being as good there, obviously, as you possibly can, and having that depth, because the quality of teams that you're going to face week in and week out in a league like this.
Also want to unpack a little bit of what you were saying about Denton Lynn, and I feel like the narrative at this time last year, we talked about entering the Big Ten and where you needed to get. A huge part of that was defense, that you need to get better on defense. And as you said, you really got significantly better on defense a season ago. What was it about Coach Lynn, and how do you look to build on that now here coming up this year?
Well, I think the combination of Coach Lynn and really the entire defensive staff that we put together, was a real shot in the arm for our program, for our players. I think we gained a lot of confidence early on with the way that we played, against some really good teams and some really tough opponents. Statistically, it was one of the most improved defenses in the country by a pretty wide margin. And I think the exciting thing for all of us here is that as much as there was improvement, like there's still like so much to go, and I think so much more that we're capable of, and really our goals and standards are just way above that. And so, and we feel like we have the right people in the building. I firmly believe we have one of the best defensive staffs in the country. The credentials of these guys, and then on top of that, how well they work together, I think is really something. And I think our players walk into our meeting rooms each day knowing they're getting it. They're teaching the skill instruction, what we're doing schematically. I mean, they're getting it from some of the best guys in the game, and I think that just creates a confidence and an attitude that that wasn't here defensively in the way that it needs to be to play to the level we want to play at. So it's just growing, it's just climbing. You can feel that, and certainly the expectations are to take another big jump defensively.
Oh, it's fun to see that jump you guys took a season ago. Offensively, somewhat counterintuitively, I guess, took a little bit of a step back last year. So let's talk about that side of the ball. And there's always going to be a ton of focus on quarterback. And you end up making a switch late in the year last year. You went to Jade Mayava as the starter, and you guys played pretty well there down the stretch with him as the starting QB. And you made no bones about it here in the spring that Jade Mayava is going to be your starting quarterback this coming year. Where have you seen the biggest jump in him, Lincoln?
Well, he's still, he even though he played in a few big games and, as you said, played very well. I mean, we won 3 of those 4 games, and really he gave us a phenomenal chance to win all of them against some quality opponents. But he's still young, even coming out of last year within, with regards to like our system, the way that we teach, the way that we do things. And so we had a lot of target areas for growth for him. And he's the kind of kid that's just going to take anything that you give him, and he's just going to put his head down and go to work. He's incredibly humble. He's incredibly, selfless, and he's willing to take criticism. He's willing to take constructive criticism, and know he has a realization knowing that, yes, I did some good things, but there's a whole lot that I got to get better at. And if I do, I can play as good as he played, and certainly a lot of spurts last year. Like it can certainly be even much better. So, I think he's learning. I think he's learning just each and every day. He puts his head down. He goes to work. He's becoming a stronger leader. Having more of a voice and a presence on our football team, and certainly getting, I think, a good feel for how we want to play as we continue to grow in this offense.
Well, he came in as a transfer, but you guys have done really well here in terms of high school recruiting, and you've made it pretty clear that you want to lean in to high school recruiting. USC obviously is in an area of the country where there's incredible high school talent. And right now, I mean, it's not earth-shattering when you think about it. It's USC and the history of the place and how many great players you've had. But you got the #1 class in the country right now for next season. I know you can't get into specifics of players, but why do you think this recruiting pitch has started to resonate with some of the earlier classes, but really resonated with this incoming group?
Yeah, because honestly, it's not a pitch. It's they see what's happening. They see the staff we've put together. They see the facility that we're building across the street right now. It's going to be one of the best in college football. They see a chance to get a degree that'll change their life no matter what happens on the football field. I think the people that really watched our team play last year, the edge, the toughness that we played with, the improvements that were made, and I just think with that, the overall trajectory, and I think they see the opportunity to do it at a place that is really unlike any other. And so it's been fun to see the class come together. A lot of guys that obviously there's an individual part to these decisions, but there's also, you feel the class like they really want to do it together and they want to do it here. And it's been very special to see it come together.
Well, we are anxious to see that group coming up a year from now in LA. Coach, really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy day. Appreciate you making time for us here on Big Ten Today.
Anytime. Thanks for having me. Fight on.
So that's going to do it for us. We got the women's schedule reveal. Shimmy Miller joins me tomorrow. We will see you then.